From our studio in our office at the corner of 8th and Walton in Bentonville, Arkansas, welcome to Saturday Morning Meeting, brought to you in part by Dun & Bradstreet Credibility Corp, the leading provider of credit and credibility solutions for businesses. Saturday Morning Meeting covers Walmart, Sam's Club, and the consumer product companies that are represented on the racks and shelves throughout the country and around the world. Our focus is on the insights, trends, and best practices to help you as a supplier grow your business with the world's largest retailer. I'm Andy Schuch, and thanks for joining us. Today, in Swimming in a Sea of Data, Jeff Amerine talks with Jay Thornton of Cusac Co Company about customer acquisition. And then we'll meet with Jason Whitmer of Cleveland Research to discuss a recent consumer survey that reveals what's affecting consumers this year. But first, the headlines. Over the past few months, Walmart has undergone some major organizational changes. Doug McMillon became CEO in February, and Bill Simon was replaced with Greg Foran as head of Walmart's U.S. operations. Now, CityWire reports on another organizational change. Walmart India's Chief Operating Officer, Arvind Mediratta, is leaving India for the United States, where he'll assume the role of Senior Vice President in Walmart's U.S.'s retail unit. Now, we don't have a lot of details on the move at this time, but we will keep you updated as we get more information. Earlier this week, 100 smaller food and beverage businesses had a chance to meet with Sam's Club buyers at a supplier event in San Diego. Now, according to a press release from Sam's Club, the event supports Sam's Club's Supplier Diversity Program, which aims to expand and advance the current pool of diverse suppliers with emphasis on small regional businesses and women, veteran, and minority-owned businesses. Now, many of the businesses that participated in the event offered products in one of 5 categories: healthy groceries, organic and natural, beverages and snacks, southwestern beers, wines and tequilas, and specialty meats, cheeses, and sausages. Walmart's international e-commerce efforts recently got a boost when its online retailer, YHD, got permission to sell over-the-counter drugs online in China. Now, YHD is the first business to receive such a license, though, as South China Morning Post notes, competitors are expected to quickly follow suit. Still, given that Amazon is likewise ramping up efforts in China, this is an important victory for Walmart. Data security is a growing concern, particularly since many major retailers suffered data breaches this last year. StreetInsider.com reports that Walmart will debut a new co-branded MasterCard this fall that offers both protection and some perks. The card incorporates a chip, making it harder for hackers to steal information. Now, in addition, users can earn cash back on purchases and receive a discount on gasoline at Walmart gas stations. Those considering buying an iPhone may want to head over to Walmart. CNET reports that Walmart has dropped the price of the iPhone 5S to $79 and the iPhone 5C to 97 cents. The price drop is in response to the anticipated unveiling of the iPhone 6. Now, there's a catch, though. Buyers can only get these prices by signing up for a 2-year contract with an approved carrier. Getting kids to eat healthy is often a chore, especially since children don't care much about the recommendations of doctors or nutritionists. But some grocery stores are getting serious about promoting good dietary habits. Now, according to Grist.com, both Walmart and Golden Eagle stores are testing out a new kid-friendly display in stores that market healthy snacks such as pureed fruit, baby carrots with shake-on flavorings, and smoothies. Walmart is testing the displays in 30 California stores, with plans to take the project nationwide this fall. Ever wondered how data analytics can improve innovation? This week, on Swimming in a Sea of Data, Jeff Amerine and Jay Thornton of Cusac Co Company give you ideas about that very thing, as well as the challenges in acquiring new customers.
Today I'm here with Jay Thornton of Cusac Co Company. Thanks a lot for coming in today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really glad to have you here. Can you give us a little bit of your background and some of the things you've worked on relative to data analytics and just the whole space?
Sure. About 5 years ago, I worked with Amy Callahan and John Andrews to start up Collective Bias.
Great company.
Thanks. I worked in the technology space there, both in design as well. And we started figuring out what exactly the social analytics data was, how to use it, and how to market it. So that was my background. Since then, I've moved on to start my own company, Cusac Co. We're really focused on customer acquisition, specifically in Northwest Arkansas and then beyond. The goal is to use big data to help target our perfect client.
Got it.
And then use that targeting to find unique tools or build them and then convert the customer all the way to retail.
I guess super efficient customer acquisition is a big part of the equation, whether you're an online retailer or a brand or just typical brick and mortar retailer.
Absolutely. That's the idea, is to speed everything up by making it more efficient.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. What are some ways that you see the data analytics reducing time to market, reducing operational inefficiencies? What do you see?
I really see using the data analytics as a method for more advanced targeting. What that does is that helps us to shrink down our marketing budgets. It helps us to focus specifically on neighborhoods rather than regions or, marketing areas.
So rifle shot versus shotgun blast.
Exactly that.
No, that's great. That's really interesting. So as you look at private label and store brands, how do you see them increasing the use of data analytics, and what kind of role is that going to play? How can they drive value?
I really think with the with the name brands versus the store brands, what they really need is the innovation. That's what got them there in the first place. With the way the markets are going these days, what we need to do is lower that cost of innovation. That's where the big data play comes in. We use that to target our customers, so we can innovate directly to and then also directly with our ideal customers.
I got it. So you don't have to necessarily just compete on price. You can maintain some of that value associated with the brand. Absolutely.
At the end of the day, the price game is going to be a loss, but the innovation game, it's going to be impossible to keep up with.
Right. It makes perfect sense. So those that have the best use of the data and can make the quickest decisions are going to have competitive advantage.
Absolutely.
Stay ahead. It makes perfect sense. What do you see as the biggest challenges in customer acquisition, and how can this data analytics piece really help that aspect?
Yeah, right now, the biggest challenge, I think, is that people can't, specifically quantify it. They don't know exactly what the cost of acquisition is, or even how to go about that. We've got a lot of different great tools in the market. Of course, we've got our retail analytics. We've got excellent social analytics platforms, companies like DataRank or Mutual Mind, that are coming out with some really innovative products. We've also got, any number of marketing companies around the sphere. The rub is that any two of those might work together. Right now, the three of them aren't working together in full circle.
I got it. So a comprehensive view is really important.
Absolutely.
How to tie these things together.
Right, and then, they're all running at different speeds. So I think as we get them working more closely together, they'll all speed up together.
Given that it's kind of a fragmented market, how do you see a decision maker or somebody that's got to make a choice on a platform or a partner weaving their way through that? What advice would you give them?
I would say look for the people that are innovating quickly. I see a lot of big platform out there, and that's definitely necessary. But the small targeted attacks, I think, are the ones that are really going to change the market as we start moving into these the millennial groups. And then
relatively low cost of investment to get involved and to experiment a little bit with these the tools.
Absolutely. I mean, you start doing some rapid deployments, and I mean, you can even do A/B testing for a fraction of the cost of major platform.
So you know quickly before you make a major investment or before you have a blown campaign.
Absolutely.
Makes perfect sense. So Jay, what do you see coming down the road the next 3 to 5 years in data analytics and decision science that's going to be a real game changer?
I'd like to see an interweaving of the open source world with the retail analytics world. Social analytics have grown just exponentially since they started working within the open source world. Right. There are a lot of eager developers, millions of them, all over the country that can put these platforms on their own servers and then really start mashing data. I mean, huge amounts of data. As we can start interweaving that with the retail link world, or with the retail analytics world as a whole, you're going to start seeing a lot of just rapid development, a lot of rapid deployment.
Sure.
That's leading to true innovation.
And true innovation around kind of a holistic solution that gives you what the customers are doing, what they're saying, and then what they're actually doing in the store.
Absolutely.
It's very interesting. Jay, thanks so much for coming in today. Really appreciate it. Fantastic insights on innovation and what's happening with data analytics. Folks, the remainder of Saturday Morning Meeting will be coming right back.
GigWalk is an on-demand mobile workforce that can collect data and do work at retail. Businesses use GigWalk for retail audits, merchandising, and much more. With 350,000 smartphone-enabled workers available on demand, you get unprecedented speed and coverage across the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. And all work is reviewed for quality and accuracy. Visit gigwalk.com to learn more.
Every day, shoppers are bombarded with traditional brand messages outside the store in hopes that these marketing dollars will drive in-store sales. Closure Media drives retail sales by connecting brands with 95 million Walmart shoppers per year while they are in the store. Through innovative programs at Walmart's photo and money centers, Closure Media converts Walmart shoppers to purchasers of your brand. With reported redemption rates up to 7 times the national FSI average, Closure Media drives sales. For more info, visit us at closuremedia.com.
Bentonville Commerce, less than 1 mile from the Walmart home office. You'll love the convenience, amenities, and customized options Bentonville Commerce offers. For more information or a tour, call 479-200-1112 today.
My colleagues and I were lucky enough to have a custom course put together for us by Eighth and Walton and Iris, our instructor. It focused on all the different aspects of what an analyst might need from retailing to work with Walmart. I think what surprised me most is that there were so many things that I had not been using in Retail Inc. that would be valuable for me and that I hadn't attempted to use yet. And also just some tips and shortcuts. Iris has a lot of experience, and she knows how to help you find things that are going to help you do your work.
Up next, we'll meet Jason Whitmer, President of Market Research at Cleveland Research Company, to discuss a recent consumer survey that reveals consumer behavior and purchasing power and the effects of healthcare reform. I'm here with Jay Whitmer of Cleveland Research to talk about the key takeaways of a consumer case study just conducted. Welcome, Jay.
Andy, thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad you could be here this afternoon. So, Jay, tell me a little bit about what Cleveland Research does.
Sure. We've been writing research for a long time. Actually, I've been in the business for 15 years. But we started Cleveland Research in 2006 with 40 of us that started writing research across 4 different major industries. We do what we call consumer or retail, healthcare, technology, and industrial. But we have a good 50 people now in our research department alone and 80 people at our firm. But we're primarily focused on business fundamentals that we use to try to identify what's getting better and what's getting worse in the marketplace.
Now, I've seen Cleveland Research with Walmart, but you guys actually a bunch of different areas.
Yeah, not just Walmart, but we'll write on the entire mass channel, the grocery channel, dollar, drug. So just within the retail environment, home improvement, we have probably a good 50 companies we write research on just within retail. But we have 15 different teams across our firm where we're writing research across other sectors as well.
So what have you been working on lately?
Sure. Well, this year we've been starting to do more consumer studies, consumer surveys across a few different topics of interest to us. Okay. We started actually with a target consumer survey. We're really trying to understand what was happening differently after their data breach, the credit card breach they had in December, and understanding what was changing from that customer, particularly loyal customers, and that was something we did earlier this year. But this summer we've been doing 3 projects at once. One is a home improvement kind of DIY, so do-it-yourself, versus pro. And understanding what that purchase decision path may be different between those from that consumer and using either their own purchase or a pro. We did a restaurant survey and understanding some brand preferences and dining out frequency, which has not been a very strong channel over the last couple of years, but we're trying to figure out. Really affected
by with the economy
certainly,
and everything else?
Very much so. And we're just completing up a healthcare study, one that really understands what some of the cost implications, both from a company standpoint, but more specifically from consumer mindset in terms of how they're being impacted by healthcare reform.
And how many people were involved in the study?
Well, it's just my team on the market research team that we're putting this together, and we're leveraging both our internal resources, but also doing some outside partnership with Gallagher Benefit Services, where they actually do the corporate side of this to do some annual benchmarking. And so they did that part this summer, and we're doing one specifically around the consumer of about 1,000 consumers.
So what have you been kind of learning through these studies? What's been kind of happening? How are the consumers responding? What are you learning from it?
Well, between the consumer studies we've been doing and the rest of our research, which is very bottoms-up, grounds-up analysis around what's happening, both from a business fundamental standpoint, what's driving traffic, what drives ticket, but ultimately what's going on in the consumer psyche and how much they spend, where they spend, and the overall spending power.
Well, and with this show, I mean, we're talking to suppliers, right?
Yeah.
And the suppliers want to know what's coming up.
Yep.
What's happening, and that's kind of what you're doing. What you're learning.
Yeah, we're not trying to report the news in any which way. Sure. We're trying to identify what's happening now, why things are happening, and put some business drivers around that, and then ultimately figure out a better path of where things may be going by assimilating all that information back into some more actionable conclusions, particularly for those that might be running a business either in one retail segment or the entire retail marketplace, or even embedding e-commerce into all of that as well.
Okay, what about the purchasing power? What are you finding is happening with the consumer now?
Yeah, the consumer's had a bad year. One that's impacted a lot of retailers.
Walmart's found that out just even in the first quarter, and you know, they've got second quarter coming up here as far as earnings go. So you know, we'll see how sales are here in a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a rough year on top of a rough year. Last year, things started to drift a little bit south as it relates to the consumer spending. Some of that was more easily identified last year than it's been this year. Specifically with a 2% payroll tax that was very easy to identify and carve out, being about $750 per year per household. There were some other things around tax refunds and timings, but for the most part, last year was a fairly straightforward year to be able to explain that away. This year, we're seeing about the equal, if not greater, consumer headwinds, both in the qualitative and the quantitative. And it goes beyond...
Explain that, qualitative and quantitative.
Yeah, qualitative is just like the what in terms of the issues addressing consumers, either that they are aware of or not aware of.
Okay.
And then quantitative is just putting some math around that. So what are some of the biggest issues impacting consumers? Certainly in the first quarter, most retailers and a lot of suppliers have probably have seen this as well, and even some distributors and logistics companies just were dealing with bad weather. Almost every company said that. I can't get the product to the store, and people aren't in the store. So that was fairly identifiable. But out of all that, which was interesting, is that heating bills went up tremendously. Auto repair costs are now coming up because the roads have been in such bad shape, and therefore the cost to repair your car is probably 3 to 5x what it would normally be. So those things were somewhat explained away in the first quarter and expected to normalize in the second quarter. And thematically, that made sense, but again, quantifiably, it hasn't snapped back fully in the second quarter from everything that we've seen, either from a corporate standpoint, the business fundamentals, or what we've seen out of the consumer. And so there's some other things under the hood that we've been exploring. Healthcare is one that we want to talk about here today, but also just the amount of spend that's going to housing and other big ticket durables. So think of appliances, or even repair and remodels within a home, or automobiles. These are all big ticket purchases that do seem to be soaking up more dollars out of the pockets of many consumers and not having as much left over, certainly for more discretionary purchases. Eating out is a good example. Home and apparel within some of the categories of these big box retailers. And then broadly speaking, we've been focused quite a bit on the e-commerce channel shift. So there's a lot coming out of stores altogether. Foot traffic seems to be down almost everywhere in every channel. And it's leading to more of a competitive environment in almost every which way.
So is the consumer trading dollars and going someplace else, or do you think they just don't have as much to spend?
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes. Okay.
The channel shift does affect foot traffic. And therefore, when you're not in the store, not only are you not buying either a planned purchase or the unplanned purchase, so that impulse sales could really affect the front end of the store is a good example, or some of those end caps are more impulsive, promotional items.
Right, and they just don't have the extra dollars to spend in it, right?
Correct, and so yeah, that impacts, especially in the one that Walmart's quantified, and a number of other, particularly dollar stores have quantified, even grocery stores, would be the impact from food stamps being cut by the government starting last November.
Yes,
that's a very quantifiable item that, you know, for many families, it's been $400 a year coming out of their food budget.
You know, before we learn about the benefits and challenges to consumers and suppliers from the healthcare reform, because we're going to talk about that, let's take a quick break. Saturday morning meeting. We'll be right back.
K-Stack, the leader in collaborative retail consolidation programs. We offer the supply chain expertise needed to navigate the challenges of selling products with the world's largest retailers. And we provide customers with a customizable, scalable, environmentally sustainable supply chain with the same advanced technology typically used by larger rivals. By leveling the playing field, K-Stack lowers distribution costs and increases overall margins. K-Stack, retail logistics is what we do. Bentonville Plaza, across the street from the Walmart home office. The best office location offers proximity and services like no other business complex in the area. Call 479-200-1112 today.
Your success with Walmart depends on being able to use Retail Link accurately and with confidence. Designed for both the beginner and the super waiting for a refresher, this course takes a hands-on approach to the most common aspects of Retail Link. In this one-day course, you'll learn how to navigate Retail Link with ease, how to personalize your dashboard, and how to build a query. Become a smarter supplier. Contact 8th and Walton today.
All right, we're back with Jay Whitmer of Cleveland Research. Jay, you were about to tell us about healthcare reform and really how that's may affect things. And your company does a lot of research with healthcare, correct?
We do. We have an entire healthcare team focusing more on healthcare.
So you've got the experience to kind of back what you're going to say right now. Wow. Okay.
But this specific study that we're doing, again, it's a little more straight into the consumer and understanding how they're receiving all the information that's changing on them, particularly this kind of big black cloud of, all right, what does it mean to them and out-of-pocket costs? Because certainly costs continue to go up in general for healthcare. That's not a surprise. Costs continue to go up for consumers as companies are putting more of that burden onto consumers in terms of paying their own premiums or raising co-pays or deductibles. So those are some things we wanted to both have a better sense of the backdrop and understanding how much people are spending today, and then more interestingly, maybe where the costs go from here and how they may adjust some of their behavior accordingly.
So who's benefiting from healthcare reform?
Well, the one that benefits by far right now would be just the hospitals with less bad debt expense and more people in the hospitals.
More people in the hospitals,
That's straight up a very easy conclusion. But the one we're seeing from this world, particularly a lot of suppliers, would be anybody in this health and wellness category. Okay. Maybe it's even in the natural organic food space as people are trying to eat healthier.
Eat healthier and be healthier, yeah.
And just being more informed about both their food or other supplements and their overall lifestyle. That is something that both in our work up to this point and with this study that we're in the midst of doing the analysis on, there's very clear implications in terms of how people are reacting, both with better information, but also with higher costs at the same time.
Right, we've heard some of the stories where people are actually going to the doctor more now because now they have insurance. Yeah. Whereas they didn't have insurance before, they're actually going into the emergency rooms and using their insurance for that. So what about the negative effects of healthcare? Yeah,
so the one that I really wanted to figure out is, what is the cost today and maybe where the costs go tomorrow for out-of-pocket for a family of four. Right now, the average consumer seems to be paying out-of-pocket about $300 a month. And that can be split fairly equally between premiums and co-pays. So co-pays for the doctor visit, as well as in co-pays for prescriptions. A family of four, though, actually is a little bit closer to $500 a month. But what we wanted to ask is, with all of this change, do you expect your out-of-pocket costs to go up over the next 12 months plus? Right. And a good 60% of customers said, yeah, they actually expected to go up. In fact, about 20% of them said they expected to go up significantly. Not quantified, but you can imagine significant would be more in that double-digit plus range. Right. If that's the normal rate of inflation for a lot of healthcare costs, maybe it's more like 20%. And putting that in context, a family of four that's actually spending $6,000 a year on healthcare is probably now starting to see $50 a month more, at least, maybe $100 a month more.
And that doesn't sound like that much. But it really is. When you take that all the way across the country, millions of people, that $50 a month, that starts adding up.
It does. It adds up into the billions quickly. It does. But again, if you think about it in a family of four, $50 a month very quickly takes out a trip to Applebee's. I mean, there's a very tangible.
Or those impulse items at Walmart.
Impulse items at Walmart, or the number of visits you would take, or again the size of the basket. That's one of the things we've seen in consumer pressure is both a smaller basket and lower value per basket. So then people are starting to shop more in the opening price point, or trading down, or trading around, or trading out of the stores.
Or less trips to the bigger stores, going to smaller ones, the dollar stores, and those type of things. So what about cost ramifications? What do you see there?
Yeah, so within that then, within those costs and the transference of some of those pressure points, what we're trying to then figure out is, so what? What do the consumers do because of that? Now, what's interesting is a lot of consumers say they actually be more informed over the last few years because of all this. So maybe it's creating more knowledge or awareness or actual price transparency within healthcare costs. That's certainly one of the things that Safeway's former CEO was a big champion for. He really thought that there was no behavior modification because there was no price transparency within the marketplace. People just would consume healthcare without any real implications from that. And so maybe this presents a little bit more, not just shopping around for healthcare, but also shopping around or adjusting my lifestyle accordingly to align more with health and wellness benefits. In the past, most consumers would say one thing and do another, and that would drive a lot of suppliers and retailers nuts. Right. They're like, well, they said they want some healthy stuff, but really they want the ho-hos. Those sort of things have been very difficult to really take at face value what consumers are really thinking differently versus how they're behaving. This may change that equation.
What's the outlook?
Yeah. So from here, we're seeing a lot of consumers now starting to change not only how they shop, but when they shop, and then where they shop. And so that's something where, again, the price transparency, both of their costs for doctor visits and for prescription drugs, but also the price transparency then for all these products elsewhere. This is where I think e-commerce comes into play with not just for signing up for healthcare through e-commerce, but through all the product transparency and price transparency that we think is a big game changer for not just the lowest common denominator, but it creates a much bigger need for innovation and product discovery, if you will, for consumers to really find kind of the next path to purchase.
Yeah.
It could be a completely different environment for them.
Is there anything else that the suppliers should know about the consumers buying their products?
Yeah, no, it's this is still a big uncertain.
Isn't there just one thing? Don't we have that one thing?
To be continued. Maybe follow up and give us a call, and we'll try to dig that up a little bit further. But no, I would say that there's to understand the consumer is still under a lot of pressure. That's not changing.
Yeah.
It's one over the next 6 to 12 months. Actually, may still get worse before it gets better.
And I think that's really the key. Is that this is really something that everyone should have their eyes on and be looking at. And Cleveland Research is going to continue looking at it, correct?
Yeah. Among other retail drivers, so for sure.
Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us today, Jay, and for sharing with suppliers some insights on their consumers. Saturday morning meeting will continue shortly. I'm here with Stan Zylowski of Movista. Stan, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Amanda Apple shared with us about the 2014 Northwest Arkansas Tech Summit, and that was actually put together by the Northwest Arkansas Technical Council. Or what exactly is that company about, or that group about?
Well, it's formed by the Bentonville Chamber of Commerce, and essentially what it is a lot of the companies in the area, a lot of the retailer suppliers in the area, along with a lot of the technology companies in the area, coming together to try and solve problems.
And what kind of problems are they trying to solve?
Well, anything from how do I get my products out on the shelf, how do I make sure they're there, to how do I more effectively reach the shopper.
And some of the different companies that are involved in this, I think one of them was Crossmark. And
yeah, Crossmark hosts a monthly meeting.
They do?
That can be attended by
now,
all
is this
the members.
At their new facility?
Yeah. The Collaboration Center across from the Walmart home office,
Great, great. Well, tell us a little bit more about the Northwest Arkansas Technical Council.
Well, I think what really boils down to is there's a burgeoning community here of tech startups that are bringing really great ideas to the table. And so you have these large companies that have big problems, and you've got small organizations that are trying to solve those problems. Putting those people in the room together and allowing them to have shared voices is how we get the best outcomes.
You know, this kind of reminds me of Sam when he took Retail Link and gave it to the suppliers and gave them the information. And it's almost like them all coming together. It kind of has some of that same feel, doesn't it?
It really is. And you know, don't ignore the role that Walmart's going to play here because because Karen Ann, the CIO, is all over this. She gets it. She understands the power of it. And look, all the big ideas are not going to come from the big companies.
Right.
So giving everyone a seat at the table is a powerful thing.
Suppliers need to jump on this, don't they?
Well, I mean, if you don't understand who Movista is, or you don't know what red clay is, or collective bias, you really aren't paying attention, and you're not doing your job. That'd be my perspective.
Yeah, well, and that's the direction that Walmart's going. That's the direction suppliers should be going as well. Thanks, Stan. We look forward to what you bring us next time. This has been Retail Insights, presented by Movista. See you next week.
I would recommend 8th and Walton to other suppliers because from my experience talking to other suppliers, they were even learning new ideas or just new and better business practices.
Most people have little time for training, and so 8th and Walton is a perfect opportunity to send your new employees to understand the retailing system. And again, because trainers were suppliers, they know the how and the why, so they become very valuable very quickly.
Our thanks to all of our guests. Join us next week. Andy Wiseman unveils the mystery of toys and the holidays. Now, for the next 2 weeks, we'll be meeting a little earlier than usual. Tune in Saturday at 5 p.m. instead of 6:30. Now, as always, we appreciate your taking the time to join us. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. I'm Andy Schuch, and from all of us at Saturday Morning Meeting, thanks for watching.